All right, everybody with us? It is 6:41. Yeah, 6:41. Let's call to order. And we'll begin with the invocation and the pledge. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together to work on city business and help our neighbors. Watch out for our future and be planning for what Simonton looks like in times to come. Please watch especially over our first responders and our military at home and abroad as they protect our very freedoms and our everyday life. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3 is public comments. Cheyenne, do we have any public comments today?
No.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 4, new business. Consider and take action to approve interim development review ordinance. It will be ordinance number 2026-03. And I'll give you the introduction, the beginning part. City of Simonton, Texas, ordinance number 2026-03, an interim development review ordinance requiring a special use permit for new development, redevelopment, or substantial improvement of property within the city limits pending adoption of a unified development code, providing definitions, application procedures, review criteria, and expiration, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Council, I think you have a copy from one day last week of the proposed interim ordinance. As we've discussed at our last council meeting, this would be in place while the zoning project is underway, and then would be replaced once the ordinances are developed to support the zoning project. The benefit is that gives some measure of review to the council, or maybe expands the ability to review, so that projects meet the comprehensive plan requirements that were set out last year or 2 years ago in the interim while you're doing development work on the new zoning requirements. I believe that everybody has or should has a proposed changes to ordinance and side-by-side comparison document with yellow highlight. That is provided by Councilmember Duhan. Eric, do you want to go ahead and give your summary of what I'm
proposing? Okay. Let me first say this. I think the work that has been done by the group so far is actually very, very good. I have no issues with the people who are going to do this work. In my review of this and in your side-by-side, is all in one intent. My single most intent is to protect Valley Lodge. Valley Lodge residential area is the most, I would say, populated part of the city. And in reading through and doing the comparisons, it came up that what's going to really happen here is the costs are going to start to rise, both for maybe the POA and the city. There are possible delays unless we pass, or unless we change some things that are going to happen that is done quicker. The council will have to meet more often. If we are the deciding group that makes the decisions, there are things that's just going to happen. So legal costs to enforce contentious objections if people have them, costs to implement and constraints put upon the council, and the POA to either contest restrictions or enforce more restrictive requirements when in court. So if the city puts more of a restrictive covenant on the people in Valley Lodge, they will win versus our deed restrictions. If the deed restrictions are more restrictive, the deed restrictions win. So the budget concerns for inspections, reviews, amendments, all these things that are good about what the focus is here for a community that's trying to prevent things happening that are not according to the comprehensive plan. This is what that ordinance is going to address. We have people who recently made changes on their property that if they had to do this today, they have to go through the SUP in Valley Lodge. In Valley Lodge. And maybe you can maybe speak to some of the discussion we had there after I finish, but the point is that if you look at all of these, not just the ones I highlighted, there are things that are allowed and not allowed between the city and the SUP. So what am I proposing? All I'm proposing at the end of the day, and save you some time on reading all of this, is that the ordinance have a few amendments to it. And one of the amendments is a statement on page 2, prerequisite to other development approvals. All I'd like to add is that we put a statement that says, a little small statement that's on purpose and intent on a handout you have that says, it is the intent of this ordinance to regulate development projects of community scale and not routine residential construction. So people in Valley Lodge that just do their routine stuff, they'll follow the current rules established by the city and the deed restrictions and the POA. Without that in there, there's nothing in here to help protect Valley Lodge itself in any way.
What do you mean by protect? You're saying that if somebody wants to go and do a repair on their home, the normal process is they come up here, which they still pay for, right? And they get a permit and it's usually approved and then they go on their merry way.
Mm-hmm.
But he already stated, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, that this doesn't oversee the deeds, everything that's already in the neighborhood. Like we're not stopping people from doing what they were already able to do.
They're changing the process by which they may have to take to do it.
Which they may have to take.
Well, if you pass this, there's nothing to say if I'm going to go expand, let's say a building, expand a building that's currently on my property, changing the landscape, changing the footprint, what would happen? I come here and get a permit and say I need to do it, right?
Or,
All right, with the SUP, what would happen?
well, you still have to come up here, put in your permit, put in everything that you'd have to originally. But I get what you're saying. You're saying that you think that the council is going to come to vote on whether or not you can have landscaping.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Well, I'm just saying.
It can be that intrusive, you're right. It could be that intrusive if we make it that way. So if you're going through the things that he wants, all I'm saying is, I don't necessarily agree with all of this towards the people in Valley Lodge. I totally agree with it in a new development or protecting something, a high rise or whatever. All of that has to take place.
Which I think is what this was for.
So there should not be an objection that says, add the statement that says eliminate Valley Lodge from that requirement in the current residential area. Now, Mary, you might want to speak to what Phil said.
So I have two things. First of all, Phil's comment, and we have not had a discussion. We've had a text message about 10 minutes ago about this. But Phil's comment is that he would have concerns about having spot ordinance.
Spot ordinance, yeah.
That you really have to have a public concern or reason that you would do that. So there would need to be more discussion if you're going to exclude an area. Because there are rules about that for fair and equal application of the, I'm going to call it the law of the rules. The other thing that I'll just add is if you look in section 3, definitions, which is on page 2, under redevelopment, and under substantial improvement, it gives you some guidelines so that you would know if you are making a change to your property or an upgrade or a remodel, that not everything has to have a substantial review. So in item C, substantial improvement of property, any repair, reconstruction, rehabilitation, addition, or improvement of a structure or site that results in significant change to the building or property, including but not limited to circumstances where the value of the work equals or exceeds 50% of the structure's appraised value as determined through publicly available records. And I'm going to stop there for a second and say that's already required if a property is at ground level or below the floodplain. If it's more than 50%, you already can trigger that. So that wouldn't be new, but it's saying if you're doing something like adding a new siding or painting or adding landscape, that's not going to trigger 50% of your value of your home. if you're not doing something that already would require a permit, it's not necessarily going to trigger the larger review.
So,
So that could protect
okay,
what you're talking about when
Right.
you're making a change to your home. The ordinance, that nothing in this ordinance shall require an applicant to disclose the value or cost of constructing or improving a residential dwelling, except where such disclosure is required by FEMA, by federal law or FEMA regulations, which is what I was talking about with the 50% rule. And I'm not going to read the whole document, but it defines what the circumstances would be for significant change, so that it's not subjective and what I think is significant or what Amy thinks is significant or anybody gives unfair application of the law. The other item that's listed is the improvement materially changes the building size, site circulation, parking, access, building footprint, or operational characteristics. Routine maintenance and interior remodeling that does not materially alter exterior appearance, building footprint, site layout, or functional operation of the property shall not constitute a substantial improvement.
so I think we all could have in our mind, actually, one of us did do some improvement recently, and I guess we would have to just think through our mind, would we have classified that as substantial or not, and would we have had to do other than just get a permit and do what we need to do? And whether it's on the ground or not, like you said, FEMA involved, we're just gonna have to think through that, because the way I read this is that if you have to go through the sub, that's gonna take you longer and it's gonna cost more.
So,
If you have to
addressing
go
the
through
cost,
the
you're
sub.
right about that, there would be additional costs for that. But just like we do today, the city should not incur costs that are not recovered. So if it costs us $50 to send an inspector out an additional time, then that needs to be in the permit fee up front, so that we don't nickel and dime a property owner as we go along. We calculate all of those types of things in when you apply for your permit.
So
So
do
the
we-
city doesn't add to what we need to budget because you want to recover that in your permit fees.
So we don't make a profit on permit fees.
That's right.
So it should be just what it costs us to have the inspection done, or whatever you have to have done is what they
There's
charge us, you
administration.
pass it through.
Yeah, pass-through fees and administration. And there's a formula for that, depends on how many hours of time it takes for Cheyenne or whoever the permit person is.
Okay.
Lori, was this brought to your attention in enough time to ask Brett?
But no, I tried to call him this evening when I got this and he was not available. So the feedback from Phil is what we have at this point. My question to Phil is, if you go ahead and adopt and then decide to make a change, we already know this answer because I think we asked it last meeting, but just to remind everyone that you can change this agreement or this ordinance after it's adopted if we were to decide, okay, yes, we do want to make an accommodation for
FEMA can't. We can't. FEMA does that.
Okay, my house is 8.5 feet in the air. I want to replace my roof. They tell me it costs me, let's just say it costs me $80,000 and I want to do the back thing and everything else, and I come up with $180,000. And then you go look at Fort Bend County, and because I've done certain things, my value of my house is actually lower than what it really is. Okay, and now you come in and say, well, that's 50%, you got to tear your house down.
You know, you have the
No,
ability to
You've already
bring,
mitigated. Yours is outside of that. Yours is outside of that. You've already
The
mitigated.
FEMA part. But it is going to trigger the SUP, would it not?
It would.
Okay, so if it triggers the SUP, there will be additional costs to me, the person, right? And maybe to the city, but they can recover with its permit. And it's going to cost the council some time to review it, because it's in the SUP process. All fine and dandy, I have no objections to the SUP process, not at all. All I'm saying is, if we add additional burdens into the people who live here, who want to build a house inside of Valley Lodge, who want to just live peacefully, we need to consider that, that's all. And maybe it's later on, we can consider it, we'll change it later.
No matter what the wording we put in here, if you still go over that amount, the 150%, you still have to go through FEMA and all of that information as well. You still have to go through that, which will take you a lot longer than this one.
So there's floodway and there's floodplain, right?
Valley Lodge is all in floodplain.
There's a line. You can go back and look at it.
Why don't we all agree that maybe some additional clarification would be beneficial, whether it's from Brett, whether it's from Phil. But in the time that it takes to get that, we don't want to leave the city unprotected. That's.
Okay, so, okay, can I ask a probing question then? If we know of someone who currently wants to buy land and build something that we might object to,
Okay.
it would still have to be time before they buy the land, prepare the land, get permits from us, the county, everybody else. It's not happening next week,
Okay.
okay?
I'm not referring to somebody purchasing a property, I meant to build a house. I'm talking about,
No,
this
I'm talking
protects
about
us from
commercial.
saying, right, but somebody, just like the concrete plant, somebody can come in tomorrow and purchase property and we have no control over what goes on. So yeah, literally that could happen tomorrow.
That's not necessarily true. Is it true that we have no control over what goes on
The
in the city?
council does or would act as zoning commission right now
With this,
without anything else.
okay,
It's basically a review. Your ability to approve or deny whatever the project is limited.
But it's there. It's limited. I guess what I'm saying is that the urgency we all feel is true.
okay.
We don't want, there's certain things we don't want to happen without it being understood what's gonna happen. And I was shared with for the first time that there's something close that might be happening. Somebody may be wanting to build something that would have to definitely come under the comprehensive plan, definitely have to be reviewed through the SUP, right? So,
Okay.
okay, but that cannot happen tomorrow, the next day, the next week. It's gonna be months.
So what you're saying is that because it's gonna take too long, don't worry?
No, I'm not saying don't do this. I'm just saying understand, things are not gonna move as fast as we all might think they are, but they're gonna move.
But they can.
They-
Sure they can.
Yes.
How fast do you think they can move?
In the
They
private.
can buy the
In
land.
the,
Go ahead.
So what if they're already taking action and we just don't know about it yet? I don't know. Or what if you can
all I'm
change
saying
it
is I
later?
understand that you are concerned that it potentially could possibly cost a homeowner a little bit more money if they went through this process right now. I am not saying that I like that either. All I'm saying is to make sure that we get the wording correctly from Phil or the
I agree,
company.
100%.
That we get some clarification, but we can add that clarification in 2 weeks. Or modify, excuse me. And so if we pass this tonight, then we are still protected. And all we have to do is get the clarification to where you are satisfied, everybody understands, everybody's on the same page, and we can add that. But the long paragraph that, I mean, I read it a few times. I don't know if that's what needs to be in there. And just like you said, right, we would still have to get clarification from the company, from Phil, before we proceeded to put any of this stuff in there.
Absolutely. I
So-
thought he would be here tonight, and then we could have had some discussion in closed session, but
I'm just saying, all we're doing right now is arguing little bits and this and that, and none of it's, we're not solving it.
like I said, that we're not arguing, I'd like to say we're trying to get clarification.
Well, that's what I think Phil and Brett could provide for us.
Absolutely agree.
So, putting that to rest, I'm gonna make a motion that we pass this ordinance to protect the city with the amendment, I'm gonna say it wrong, so I apologize, with the, what's the word? Is it amendment? Okay.
Okay. I don't know.
I apologize, that we pass the ordinance, knowing that we are gonna get some clarification for what Eric has suggested, and we are gonna go through Phil and Brett and to get clarification of if this is allowed in, how it will deter, and if it's something that we want to add in the future.
Okay.
There's that too many
That's
words,
a long one.
my bad. I just wanted to be as clear as possible.
We're gonna say with review.
Sure, that
of
sounds much better.
Basically review suggestions with a potential to come back to council with modifications. Okay, makes sense.
Yes. Teamwork.
Okay. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Any further discussion?
No, I'm just excited that we're finally here after several years of nothing getting done. We're finally starting to protect the community, so I'm happy.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Everybody. All right. Item 5 is adjourn to executive session. Council, we will have an executive session and consult with legal. If you don't want to stay, we're going to move to the other room. We'll be back shortly. Wait, let me give you a 7:17. And Cheyenne, do you have the sheet that I can read? I brought the zoning book and not my regular book. The City Council of the City of Simonton, Texas will convene in a closed executive session on the 11th day of March, 2026, beginning at 7:17 p.m. City Council of the City of Simonton, Texas ended its closed executive session at 7:37 p.m. on this 11th day of March, 2026. Item 6 on our agenda is reconvene, which we've just done. Item 7, consider and take action resulting from executive session. There is no action to be taken. So we will adjourn at 7:38 p.m. Thank you everyone for being here.
When is our next meeting?
Next week on
Yes,
Tuesday.
next week.
St. Patrick's Day.